Hello, I'll if you want to do this introduction to today's story, and it's all about trolls. It's a really good fun story. If you had a long day at work, you can sit down and enjoy yourself. Plonk the kids in front of it and watch it. It is very child friendly. It's great fun. I got it from this book, um, Swedish Folk Tales. I mostly got it because it is illustrated by John Bauer, who is a fantastic artist, as you can see from the cover there. The story is The Troll That Took in the King's Washing. I think it's the first one in the book. It's a good laugh. I hope you enjoy it. I hope Monday hasn't been too bad for you. And I am now going to get back to my ice cream and watching Avatar The Last Airbender. So, enjoy. Thank you. Life for the trolls was becoming a bit difficult. See, time was that you wouldn't see another human within 30 miles. But now they were chopping down the forest and building more and more cottages and huts and homes, and I mean, really too close to where the trolls lived for comfort. Indeed, many of them had already packed up and headed north, and food was becoming more difficult to find. Once the woods had been full of bears and wolves and foxes, and oh, how the trolls had enjoyed a nice bear steak or a wolf chop or foxtail soup. Now that man had come with his traps and his guns and his dogs, well, the animals had become even more scarce. But Father Troll was so stubborn, and despite him complaining about the smell of coffee and bacon from the cottages and huts that were so close by, he'd resolved not to move with the other trolls. No, he would stay in his mountain with Mother Troll and their son. Now, Mother Troll secretly quite liked the smell of coffee and the smell of bacon. But the humans were troublesome. I mean, she'd sneak out at night and peek through the windows at how they lived, and well, she nearly lost her tail one night and got caught in a snare. And it wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for those dogs. Oh, those dogs. Then maybe Father Troll could bring home some nice sweet cattle. But the dogs always barked and snarled and chased, and no, it wasn't much good. But nevertheless, they stayed in their mountain home until one day something quite extraordinary started to happen. Well, they started to dynamite the mountain. Copper had been found in the rocks, and it was decided that they would mine it. Well, at this, Father Troll became so angry, so furious, that he himself just exploded. And there he was, thrown around among the rocks in the mountain. Well, at this, Drool, the son, well, he kind of grumbled that maybe they should head north as well. But Mother Troll had other ideas. Mother Troll was a thinker. Now, she knew of an old abandoned cottage down by the lake. And she knew that she liked the smell of bacon, and she liked the smell of coffee. She knew that they'd need money if they were to have coffee and bacon. And she'd spied on the people long enough, and it seemed that if you did things like washed clothes, then that's how you got money. And their big troll kettle was just the right size to wash clothes. The magic troll powder got things cleaner, quicker than anything humans had. And so she gave this idea to Drool, who sat with his head in his hands, trying to come to grips with it all. Droll was not a thinker, but eventually, well, the thought of that sizzling bacon, that's what won him over. So, before the dynamiting and the mining sorted them out, they packed up what little they had, and one night, with the great trawl kettle hung between them, off they went. They snuck out of the mountain, through the forest, down by the lake, to the abandoned cottage, and they made it their own. Now, a few days later, there was a knock on the door of the parsonage. The lady of the house opened the door, and there before her was a hunched over, very ugly, hairy old woman with a huge wide mouth, asking if there was any washing that needed doing. Well, as it happened, there were some people of great importance coming to the parsonage, and amidst all the cleaning and cooking and other preparations, no one had had time to do the washing. And this seemed a perfect opportunity. So yes, the strange hairy old woman, her services would be needed. And much to her delight, Trollmother, in her disguise, was sent away with a great deal of washing. Well, when the washing was returned to the parsonage, in less than a day later, pressed and cleaned, dried, better than she could ever imagine. She wondered how much she should give this old woman. But the old woman seemed happy to receive what few coins she did. Word went round to the sheriff's wife, to the butcher's wife, to the cobbler's wife of this strange, ugly old woman who lived in the old cottage by the lake, who got the washing clean better than anyone. And didn't matter what you paid her. Couldn't count. Didn't seem to have any concept of money. She was just happy for what she got. And Trollmother and Droll made quite a good living. They didn't complain about anything. Oh, there was always bacon sizzling and coffee boiling, and it was so easy to do the washing. They just threw it into the old trawl kettle, a bit of water. As soon as that magic trawl powder was added, well, the washing was clean. That was it. It was hung out to dry. If a little more wind was needed, well, Trollmother just flapped her great apron. It was one of the things she kept from the old days, and that would call the wind. Washing was dry before you knew it. Now, by and by, a king decided that he would build his castle near the village. And, well, once it was built and he'd moved in, the lady-in-waiting at the castle was down in the village, and she heard talk from the parson's wife, the butcher's wife, the cobbler's wife, the baker's wife, all the women of the village, basically, of this strange old woman who would do the washing, next to nothing, cleaner than you'd ever seen. Now, the lady-in-waiting was responsible for all of the washing in the castle, and this sounded like easy money. She was paid to make sure it was done, and if she could keep some of that money herself and get someone else to do it who didn't know about money, well, all the better. Trollmother and Droll were very surprised when they were summoned to the castle. Droll did not want to go. He was scared of the royal hounds, but after much persuading, after dressing him as smart as possible in a necktie, an old shirt, and clamping an old cap down over his head to hide what he really was, off he went, pulling an old cart to the castle. castle didn't quite know what to make of this ugly boy, but he was sent away with the linen. And it was returned better than ever. Better than the women of the village had even said. Oh, this was fantastic. Now, shortly after this, the king and queen gave birth to a daughter, a little princess. And Trollmother noticed that in the washing that was sent, with the little princess's dresses and night things, and it was so cute. Look, she said to Droll, one day you shall have a little baby that you can dress in such delicate things. Droll stared at his mother. Huh, a troll baby? Wearing such things as that? Well, the Troll mother couldn't believe this. Troll baby? Oh, you will not have a troll. We're nearly human. You shall have a human child and a golden-haired wife. Puh. Droll didn't quite think this sounded right. What human woman, golden hair or not, would want him? But once Trollmother had an idea in her head, well, that was it. And she decided she would keep some of the baby princess's garments for herself. But so that they weren't found out, she taught Droll an old troll spell that he was to mutter under his breath when he took the washing back to distract the people when they checked the washing, to make sure nothing was missing, so they wouldn't realise that there were a few things here and there. So this went on. Droll collected and took the washing back. Trollmother would take a few items and keep her dreams alive of one day having a human child and having her son married off to a human girl. But at the castle, they did notice that things were missing. The blame fell upon Inga, a young servant girl, who was responsible for the mending and sewing. And as much as she protested her innocence, little good it did her, especially when some of the princess's garments were found in her room, which had been there anyway because they needed mending. This made no difference. She was obviously the culprit, and so she was sent from the castle. In despair, nowhere else to go, she wandered down by the lake, looked into its depths, wondered how wonderful it would be to simply jump in and never resurface. But she was pulled out of this reverie, these dark thoughts, by someone pulling at her dress, and she turned round. There was a strange, ugly old woman with a gravelly voice. Come with me, dear. Can't stay out here. Come. So she, having nowhere else to go, and this was the only person who'd shown her any kindness that day, she followed this strange, ugly, hairy old woman to her cottage, where she was introduced to her strange, ugly, hairy son. She realised this was the washerwoman and her son. Well, the old woman invited her to stay there with them. Inga gladly accepted, having nowhere else to go. She said she would help with the washing. Oh, no. Her hands were too soft and delicate for that, but if she would cook for them some things from the valley, then she could stay. Well, it seemed easy for Inga. She would cook porridge and flatbreads, sweetmeats. Trollmother and Droll loved this. Now, when Trollmother had seen Inga standing there by the lake, wasn't exactly out of kindness she had gone to her. As soon as she had seen her, she had thought, oh, there is a wife for Drull. And she confided this to Drull, who, while still resistant to the idea, found that he could not stop staring at Inga. Inga herself found his gaze quite uncomfortable. He was as ugly as a dog that had been kicked once too often, and, well, seemed just as stupid, really. But they were a kind, if strange, couple. Now, it so happened that Inga was wandering in the woods one day when she came across a page boy from the castle. A young page boy who had been very sad to see Inga go. They'd become quite good friends. The page boy hoped it would be more. He was so delighted when he saw Inga. Oh, Miss Inga, I'm so happy I found you. I had no idea where you'd gone. Come, I know you're innocent. Come back to mine. We can sort this all out. My mother's a very wise woman. She'll know what to do. Inga knew she couldn't go back. Not to the village. Not after what she'd been accused of. No, she would stay with the washerwoman and Drull, and as much as she wanted to go, she told the page boy not to follow her, and she ran off. Now Drull had seen this, and he was not happy. He'd followed Inga, as stealthily as he could, and hid behind a rock and heard the exchange. When he went back to the cottage, out of earshot of Inga, and his mother started filling him with such ideas again as marrying her. Who would want to marry me? No, she'd rather have a straight-backed man with a green cap, with a feather in it. And he banged his head so hard against the cottage walls he nearly knocked it down. Trollmother would hear none of this. Here, the washing's ready. Off to the castle with you. Don't forget the rhyme. Now, this was the first time the Trollmother had taken something since all the kerfuffle over Inga. She'd been a bit scared that they'd noticed things were missing. But, there'd been a little gown, such a beautiful little gown, she couldn't resist. And so she'd kept it. So it was very important that Drull not let them realise that this was missing. But Drull was in a foul mood, thinking of Inga and the page boy all the way to the castle. He muttered and grumbled to himself and quite forgot to say the rhyme while the washing was being counted. Meanwhile, back at the cottage, Trollmother took Inga to one side. And, wouldn't it be wonderful if you and Drull were married? Inga didn't really know what to make of this. They were very kind to her, but she had no intention of marrying Drull. She began to protest. Hoping that it would change her mind, the Trollmother took Inga to where she had hidden the princess's clothes. But imagine your baby. You can wear things like this. Inga's mouth fell open. But these are the princess's things. You can't. You shouldn't have taken these. These aren't yours. Trollmother shrugged. What did it matter? Take what you can. But it's wrong to steal. Bah! She pushed Inga to one side, and in her temper turned so quickly that her tail fell out from under her skirts. Inga's eyes widened. It had just been for a moment that there it had been plain as day. These were trolls. Inga was terrified. She fled from the cottage. Back at the castle, Droll was snapped from his grumbling and mumbling with a question. Where is the princess's christening gown? Oh, I must have forgotten it. I'll go back. So back he went. Now he found the cottage empty. Inge, having ran away in fright, and his mother out doing the washing. So he went to where all the princess's stolen things were. He didn't really know what he was looking for, so figured he would take a few of the things. One of them must be the right one. He didn't know. And he headed back to the castle. In the meantime, fleeing through the forest, Inge had bumped again into the page boy. This time she did not run for him. She collapsed against him, sobbing, explaining what had happened. Oh, you must come back to my mother. She'll know what to do. This time Inge did not refuse. Now the page boy's mother listened to her story, and she knew immediately what must be done. They must go to the castle. Drull had reached the castle already and began showing the servants and lady-in-waiting the other garments. Realising what had happened, the lady-in-waiting had called for the guard. Drull suddenly felt a hand upon his shoulder. Turning, saw the guards, battered them to one side with a single blow, and ran back to the cottage to tell his mother what had happened. When he had run off, Inge was taken into the castle before the queen. Everything was explained. The queen was overjoyed that Inge was innocent, for she did care for her a great deal, and was very sad when she had found out that she might be guilty of such things. The guards were dispatched to the washerwoman in Droll's cottage, to the troll's cottage, but when they got there, all they found was some of the sheriff's wife's washing, half dry, blowing in the breeze, the door creaking on its hinges, cottage quite empty. Trollmother and Droll had already ran off. Now as time passed, Inge became lady-in-waiting. The page boy was made head forester, and they were given a home of their own. And they were married. They were very happy together. And within the year, Inge had a child of her own. And she was sitting one night. She heard a strange sigh. She looked up at the window, and there 4 melancholy eyes stared in. She got such a fright. She cried out. Well, when the page boy, a forester as he was now, opened the door, there was no one to be seen. There was a bundle on the doorstep. It was the rest of the clothes, the princess's clothes, that the Trollmother had taken. Gift, perhaps. A way to say sorry. And Inge didn't really wish them any badly, any harm, or any bad. And she hoped that wherever they had gone, wherever they were hiding, that life wasn't too hard for them. For they had shown her kindness, and they had taken her in when no one else would.